Welcome to this explainer on mastering self-management. Look, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by your own reactions, or maybe you've found yourself just kind of waiting around for external motivation to get things done, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to explore a massive shift, moving from a mindset of external dependency to one of complete internal empowerment. We're going to break down how to stop merely managing the situations around you and start managing the single most important variable in the room, which is yourself. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Here is the roadmap for our transformation today. We'll be hitting the foundation of self, mastering the reaction gap, core frameworks, managing energy, and finally, self-leadership. Let's get started. Section 1, the foundation of self, moving from potential to performance.
You know, you can't always control what happens to you, but you absolutely can control your response. And self-management isn't just about managing your time. It really requires a full 360-degree view across 8 distinct dimensions. We have to start asking ourselves some pretty tough internal questions. For self-awareness, it's about asking, what is actually happening inside me right now? For attention, what truly deserves my concentration in this exact moment? For emotion, am I managing my emotions or are they completely controlling me? Honestly, continuously evaluating our internal state across these 8 areas is exactly how we graduate from basic self-management to true self-leadership.
Now, these dimensions play out in real life through what's called the self-management equation. Let's walk through a real-world example, like receiving some really harsh criticism at work. Step 1 is awareness, just realizing, okay, I am becoming super defensive right now. Step 2 is choice, realizing, wait, I don't need to respond immediately. Step 3 is action. I'm going to just listen and identify what's actually useful here. Then comes the discipline to genuinely correct the issue, getting feedback to see if things actually improved, and finally, improvement, where you ask what you'll do differently next time. It literally turns a defensive, knee-jerk reaction into a constructive, self-managed loop.
Section 2, mastering the reaction gap, finding that crucial space between stimulus and response. So, how do we stop sabotaging ourselves with automatic emotional reactions? We use the pause, think, choose, act framework. Step 1, pause. Just don't automatically react. Step 2, think. Ask yourself, what is actually happening here and what matters most? Step 3, choose a response that actually supports your desired outcome. And step 4, act. Take the smallest, most intelligent action possible. Remember this, a reaction is automatic, but a response is a choice. The better you get at creating that gap between a stimulus and your response, the stronger your self-management becomes. Let's see how this drastically changes everyday outcomes. When you're dealing with an angry colleague, a weak automatic response is to either attack them back or just completely withdraw. But a self-managed response, you pause, you try to understand, and then you respond. Or think about procrastination. The weak default is always, oh, I'll just do it later. The self-managed option is simply forcing yourself to start for just 10 minutes. The situation itself remains exactly the same, but the quality of your response dictates a completely different reality. Continuing with this contrast, let's look at how we handle failure and criticism. The automatic, weak response to failure is almost always blaming others, right? And for criticism, it's becoming highly defensive. But a self-managed individual will analyze and learn from failure, and they'll actively extract the useful feedback from criticism. Taking extreme ownership in these really uncomfortable moments is exactly how you build unshakably credibility and long-term trust with the people around you. Section 3, core frameworks. Tactical tools for daily management. All right, let's zoom in on some tactical tools you can literally use today. Framework number 1 is the control circle. Basically, you divide every problem into 3 buckets. First, what you control. That's your effort, your attitude, and your choices. Second, what you influence. People, processes, and relationships. And third, what you absolutely must accept. Past events and things completely outside your control. The golden rule here, spend way less mental energy on the things you cannot control and focus your action entirely on what you can. Framework 2 is the 80-20 priority rule. You've got to ask yourself, which 20% of my activities are creating 80% of my meaningful results? It's a game changer. Make it a habit every single morning to identify your one most important task, plus maybe 2 other important ones. You need to complete that high-value work before you ever let low-value, busy activities consume your attention. Framework 3 is the OODA loop, which was designed for uncertain or rapidly changing situations. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that you cannot wait for perfect information. Observe reality, orient yourself to understand the situation, make the best available decision, act, learn, and repeat the cycle. This is exactly how you develop highly adaptive self-management in real time.
Framework 4 is PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Adjust. This is just a brilliant cycle for continuous personal improvement, whether you're using it for your productivity, your fitness routines, or your overall career development. When you apply this cycle, you shouldn't be asking yourself, am I perfect? Instead, you should constantly be asking, am I improving?
And the fifth tactical tool is if-then planning. This is about converting a super vague intention into a concrete, predetermined response. For example, if I feel like procrastinating, then I will just work for 10 minutes. Or, if an unexpected task gets thrown on my desk, then I will check its priority before accepting it. If I make a mistake, then I will acknowledge it and learn from it. Predetermining your actions like this dramatically reduces your reliance on your very limited daily willpower. Section 4. Managing energy over time. The paradigm shift for sustained performance. To sustain this kind of high performance, we need a massive paradigm shift. We have to recognize that real self-discipline is built through keeping small promises to ourselves, not just through raw endurance. I really want you to let this quote sink in. Manage energy, not only time. Look, time is completely fixed. You and I both have the exact same 24 hours. But two people can produce wildly different results in those 24 hours, and it is based entirely on their energy. Your energy and your attention are entirely under your control. There are 5 specific types of energy we must actively protect. Physical energy requires prioritizing sleep and movement. Mental energy means actively reducing unnecessary decisions and distractions. Emotional energy means you literally have to stop repeatedly replaying situations in your head that you cannot change. Social energy involves spending time in supportive, positive environments. And finally, purpose energy is simply knowing the why behind the work you're doing. Protect these 5 buckets, and I promise you, your output will soar. Section 5, the shift to self-leadership. Becoming someone you can genuinely trust to lead yourself. This is the ultimate shift we've been building towards, moving from merely managing yourself to truly directing yourself. To make that leap, you need a profound shift in mindset. You see, a self-manager might sit back and wait for instructions, but a self-leader is always initiating. It's the difference between constantly making excuses versus taking extreme ownership, choosing comfort versus actively pursuing growth, and casting blame versus accepting full responsibility. A true self-leader never asks, who's going to push me? They simply ask, what needs to be done?
This kind of mindset shift builds gradually across what we call the 6-level maturity model. We all start at level 1, that dependent state of just tell me what to do. Then we move up to reactive, acting only when something happens to us. Level 3 is responsible, taking real ownership of our work. Level 4 is proactive, actually anticipating problems before they hit. Level 5 is strategic, where we are deliberately allocating our resources. And at the absolute peak is level 6, the self-leader, who continuously directs and improves themselves, and by doing so completely elevates and positively influences everyone around them. So how do you actually start climbing those levels? By jumping into a simple 7-day practice. Please, whatever you do, don't try to change everything all at once. On day 1, just observe your current habits. By day 3, start actively practicing the pause, think, choose, act method we talked about. On day 4, clearly identify your highest value activities. And on day 6, pick just one unhelpful habit and replace it with a better behavior. It's these incredibly small, intelligent, repeated actions that ultimately create absolute behavioral reliability. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly powerful question that any strategic self-manager should be asking themselves every single night. What will you do differently tomorrow? Remember, self-management isn't about trying to control every external event. It's about becoming increasingly capable of managing yourself within whatever event happens. Master yourself, lead yourself, and watch how it multiplies your results. I seriously encourage you to reflect on this question tonight. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.